Has council had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes of March 1st? If so, how do you wish to proceed?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Motion from Rick, second from Becky. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Thank you. Carried. Any changes to this evening's agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for approval of the set agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Becker's Police Department 2021 Annual Report. Chief Balloon. Oh, that sounded like drum rolls.
It was.
A heck of a presentation you did.
Just did one slide. Oh, didn't do it initially. There we go. All right. Well, Madam Mayor and Council, good evening. This is my chance to kind of run through an annual report with you, at least to tell you what's happening in the police department over the past year. It was a good year for us. So, I'll just kind of go through this in the essence of time, but if you do have questions, let me know. I like to do this. It gives me an opportunity to get in front of you just to describe, you give us the money, so to speak, and what do we do with it? And what are maybe some of the successes we've had over the last year and what's happening in the police department. From a staffing point of view, we are currently at, right now, current staff, but one thing of note over the last year, and this kind of reflects a little bit into our budget process, is between December of 2020 and into the next year, we had 6 staffing changes in the police department. So just to kind of, give you a picture of what that means, maybe not a lot, but it allows us, one, to bring in different blood into the police department, which has been great. I can tell you right now, the stability of the police department is probably the best it's ever been. Very tight-knit group and very, very good group of people, I will say that. However, on the budgeting side of things, and I'll just kind of move forward to that, a little bit. When we bring on a new officer, what happens is the cost of a new officer, the equipment and stuff like that is very expensive. When you factor in the hours of a new officer training with a veteran officer, we're paying 2 salaries at the same time for up to 3 months. So you could be looking at $10,000 to $15,000 just in salary alone for a new officer. Combine that also with, thousands of dollars of equipment, much of which we try to recycle as we, work through officers if that's the case. Not always the case, but when we looked at our budget this past year, that was one of the big factors in where we kind of ended up. So kind of an anomaly for me, for our department. We did finish a little bit over budget this past year, about $10,000. However, when you look on the revenue side of things, I think I put 20,000 on the good in the memo. However, it's closer to about 10,000. So we're pretty close to breaking even when you factor that in, which is actually a good thing for us. On the revenue side, we did finish a little bit less on the state police aid. I always point that out because we don't have a good formula for how we get that money. As you probably recall in years past, we've asked the state how they compute that, because as you'll note, we went from 70,000 the year before to 55,000. Why does that happen, or what is the reason for that? Well, we don't know, because they won't really tell us. So we will continue to try and kind of nail down why that happens or how that works a little bit better, but for years we've never been able to get a very good answer from the state on that. We do continue to participate in the TZD program, Towards Zero Death. That helps with traffic enforcement, seatbelt enforcement, distracted driving enforcement. It's a good opportunity for officers to earn some overtime. It's grant driven, so the hours that we put in, we notify. Elk River is the grant department for us. We notify them of the hours. Chris happens to be our liaison to the program, so he keeps all the statistics and stuff like that, notifies Elk River, and that's how we are actually paid for the hours that the officers put in. Also of note is the training. As you imagine, officers receive a lot of training throughout the year, varied training at that, some which is required, some which is more specialized, some to maintain certifications, that sort of thing. So when you look at the list, I know some of this is, well, what is PPCT? Well, it is a version of defensive tactics that we actually do. or the DMTG, well, that's what our intoxilizer, the machine that does the breath test, that's what it's called. So some of those things we kind of have to have for the business that we do. I am happy to say last year we had an annual audit with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, which we passed with flying colors. Part of that is the examination of our training to make sure we are fulfilling the requirements under state law. And I was told we are exceeding those, which is good to hear. So we are clearly doing what we're supposed to be doing according to the BCA, which, then we get a letter, or a certificate suitable for framing after that, which is nice. And then again, we look at the calls for service, which for some it's, when I come to you, as I told a former mayor many years ago, why do I put something like this together? When you look at the calls for service and some of the statistics, I come to you and ask for another officer, the question is going to be why and what are you going to do with them? So this helps me try to explain, what we're doing, but also, if I don't put them between that 2 o'clock and probably midnight time frame, what am I doing? Because that's our busiest time frame of the year. Traditionally, that's kind of how it works out. And even with the officer we're looking at bringing on this year, that's likely where we're going to put them, is during that time frame. We're going to be doing some shuffling, and we're going to try and bolster that time frame a little bit more because we have more calls for service and more tends to happen that time frame. So again, there's just other statistics to look at in the report. Part 1 and Part 2 offenses are what are reported to the FBI, that sort of thing. It identifies our crime rate. Now, I've heard from other jurisdictions our rate as high as 600 or something like that. Not true. We happen to have probably the lowest crime rate in Sherburne County just by virtue of numbers. I would venture I would actually take the leap of saying we're probably the safest community in our county as well, based on our numbers. When you look at our Part 1 offenses, they are pretty stable over the last 4 to 5 years. The numbers tend to be the same for the most part when you add them all together. Similarly, when you look at Part 2, and those are the lesser offenses, if you will, pretty same. It's kind of the same. Now, some things do change, and we've seen some anomalies with COVID, of course. Family-related things and how those get reported to us and how we deal with some of that, how some things get categorized can change from year to year. So while you see some numbers that may be a little different a little bit, there's usually a reason for that. I will say narcotics took a good increase this past year. There has been a focus by our officers on narcotic enforcement or criminal interdiction on Highway 10 and elsewhere. I can tell you this, most of our arrests are not from people from around here. They're from people passing through. So the successes we've had with narcotics enforcement is, it's good to see, but it's really not from most of the people around here, yes.
Are you checking more for it, or is there just more of it?
I would say there's probably more of it coming through. And as we've seen, we've discussed in the past, is maybe there's a leniency with some of the courts on how they're treating some of that. So therefore, my assumption is that there is more of it as a result of it.
They get away with it once, they'll get away with it again.
Yep. Yeah, so the more we can take out off of the streets, out of the cars, whatever it is, obviously that makes it more difficult for them when they're missing their money. So our guys and gals continue to do a good job with that. Traffic stops, as you would expect, up a little bit more this past year once things kind of got back into more of a normal routine for us. We still maintain what I say is a pretty high warning rate, 77% warning rate on traffic stops, which it would indicate more of a emphasis on education versus enforcement in the sense of writing tickets all the time. Again, we've seen like driving after revocations, people with no licenses, gone up a sharp increase and stuff like that. Don't know why, other than the fact we've heard excuses about, well, I can't get my license or I can't do this. Well, that was an excuse during COVID, it's not anymore. So people should be able to get those back or be able to get that taken care of now anyway. So one thing we're real happy to kind of show is our reserve program. We've got several reserve officers, but they do a lot for our department and do a great job. So this past year saw another record year for the number of hours that they donated to the police department. And they do a lot of things. The biggest thing is riding along with the officers and providing an extra pair of hands, set of eyes on what's going on. The other part of that is for many of them, it's an opportunity to get some training, to see law enforcement, their students. Tristan, the young man that's in the right on the picture there, he is the individual we'll be hiring here soon as one of our reserves. Jenna, of course, was the middle one there. She was one of our reserves, and now she's a police officer. So we look at that as a good recruiting tool, and if we have somebody that's a great fit, why not hire them into the police department as well? So Carter, Jenna, and Tristan received awards this past year. We believe in the Presidential Service Awards. They get a certificate, a pin, that sort of thing that they can put on their uniform, and then of course put it on their resumes, and hopefully that helps them get hired if Becker is not that spot for them. So beyond that, of course, some pictures. There's Shawnee with a tiara before she left, but and just some of the other types of pictures of things that happened throughout the year. Again, I think we've had a great year. I guess I'll leave it up to you now. If you've got any questions for me on anything that maybe you've seen, or maybe just in reading through the report this year that you might have. Crickets.
That's my question.
Well, again, what'll happen, as I do every year, is I present the report to you just as an information piece. Sometimes it's good to know what we have people coming to town. I think this is good information. People do sometimes ask, how safe is Becker? What's going on? Well, I always direct them to our annual report so they can see some information. I think they appreciate that. This will now be posted tomorrow. Once it's been presented to you, I post it the next day on our website, and I'll probably throw it on Facebook as well. So. But if any questions were to come up, feel free, please let me know. Again, I like to think stuff like this keeps us very transparent, not only with you, but also with the public. So please contact us, obviously, if you have anything or have any questions. I think that's it. And as we've done in the past, if I could get an approval of, or acceptance of the report, that would be great.
Make a motion to accept the report.
I'll second it.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
We'll go ahead and open guest and open forum. And this evening, we have the Greater River Regional Library Annual Presentation with Jeanette.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes of your time in this meeting tonight to present the review of the Becker Library for year 2021. Oh, sorry. My name is Jeanette Burkhart, and I'm the Library Services Coordinator for the Becker and Big Lake Libraries. My purpose tonight is again to go over 2021 with you. The topics I'll cover would be the system-wide overview of just the region in general, along with some Becker specifics, the new hours, or I shouldn't really say new hours, but reallocated hours for 2021 that we used for operation last year, partnerships with Pebble Creek and Sherburne County, and then outreaches, and then if you have questions for me. So the infograph shows you system-wide what 2021 looked like for the Great River Regional Library. Becker had not quite 8,500 checkouts for the year. We checked out not quite 52,000 items. Borrower numbers, we had just over 2,000. We did generate 398 new cards over the year, but that was not enough to recruit those people that had let their cards expire and just hadn't been in to renew them or have not come back to the library since 2020. Summer reading program was Reading Colors Your World, and we had 269 kids participate. That's ages 0 to 17. And the winter reading program was Light Up the Mind, and we had 52 teens, which we start at ages 12 or in 6th grade through adults. I will tell you that the winter reading program last year, we generated the most slips ever returned from adults and teens, as well as electronic badges completed in Beanstack. And I attributed that to the prizes because we had gift cards from McDonald's Meats and free product prizes from Thousand Hills. In the fall of 2020, the Great River Regional Board of Trustees gave permission to the individual libraries to reallocate their existing hours. The reason being, for Becker anyway, is that the senior center was moving from this building over to the community center. I'd seen some trends in 2020 that I felt we needed to adjust for 2021. And just based on other customer surveys or patron surveys that we've done in the past, people have always wanted more morning hours. So what we did is we took an hour off of Monday nights, Tuesday night, and Thursday night, put those on Wednesday morning and then shifted Wednesdays and so that we close at 5 instead of 6. And that gave us 7 continuous hours on Wednesday rather than a break in the middle of the day. We didn't get any new hours or additional hours. This is the same 30 hours that we've always operated under. It's just reallocated a different way. March is our annual fundraising month, and Locally Grown is the fundraising campaign. Last year, we partnered with Pebble Creek to help raise funds for the library. We had a goal of $500, and Pebble Creek was generous enough to give us 10% of all food and beverage sales from Sunday, March 21st. In the end, it was a great event, and we received a check for $526.12 from that event. We used the money to purchase craft supplies for the outreach take and make bags or other take and make craft events that we had throughout the summer. And we purchased summer reading program prizes for the kids as well. We wanted to purchase a non-traditional circulating item, and our goal at the time had been to purchase a tandem bike that would be available for patrons to check out and ride around town. There were some roadblocks with the insurance company, so instead we purchased pickleball sets. So we have 4 pickleball sets available for checkout at the library. The 4 sets actually have checked out 17 times from the time that we got them into the library and the time that the nets came down from the courts. They include the 2 rackets, 3 balls, and a basic instruction sheet on how to play. We also partnered with the Sherburne County Parks and Rec Department. They contacted the Library Services Coordinator in Elk River in January and had a SHIP grant that they wanted to use for story walks. You'll see that our bookmark that you see up here says Story Stroll, and that's simply because Story Walk is copyright. So we had to change the name. But what happened out of that grant is that the library purchased the 4 titles that you see there, The Color of His Own, Little Blue Truck, White Rabbit's Color Book, and The Big Red Barn. All of those 4 titles coincided with the theme for the summer reading program, which again was Reading Colors Your World. We purchased the books in the big book format, had the sheets laminated, and then the Parks and Rec Department for Sherburne County provided the materials and staff. So the materials to make the posts and contain the pages, and the staff to set up the posts and rotate the books through each of the parks. We used Sherburne County Bridgeview, Grahams Park, and Zimmerman. We didn't actually use Island View like it says up here on the bookmark. We actually used Oak Savannah and Woodlawn Trails in Elk River, so that each library, since there are 3 libraries in Sherburne County, each library had a park that was within some vicinity of the library. The goal was to get people out and enjoying the parks, and then at the end of each story stroll, there's a stamp, and the kids could stamp that they completed that story stroll, and when the bookmark was complete, then the kids brought it back to the library. And we purchased books of those same titles, and the kids could pick one of those books, which was one of the story strolls that they got to enjoy. These are just pictures of one little girl at Bridgeview, and then just an example of how the story stroll was set up and followed the trail around. It works better in a loop than if it's just a walk in and back. We've discovered that. And we also discovered that a park under construction is not the best place. We continued our outreach with the Becker Food Shelf. We provided take and make bags for June, July, August, and December of 2021. These 2 items that you see here were just the instruction sheets for a couple of the items that we sent in the bags for the crafts. But those also included coloring sheets, activity sheets like word finds or simple crossword puzzles, and a book that was donated by the Friends of the Becker Library. All of these items geared toward, again, the summer reading program theme. Any questions?
How did your event this last Sunday go?
Well,
Yeah.
I ran into Josh actually this afternoon, and it was just over $300 that the library will receive. So thank you for anybody that participated. We appreciate it. And if you haven't donated, you can still do that. You have till the end of March, either in person or online. If you donate online, be sure you select Becker. The weather last year was really in our favor. It was also the last Sunday in March, so it was breezy but warm enough that the golf course was open and there was no snow and golfers were out, so that made a big difference.
definitely. And then your story stroll, is that the one that we see outside the BCC in the summertime as well?
Same idea, yes, just we use different titles. So those 4 titles were purchased using that SHIP grant, and then were donated back to the library. So you'll see those 4 titles again this summer because they've been added to our professional collection. And this year we're purchasing 4 new titles that will be, again, used in the different parks. We won't be using county parks this year. We're using more city parks this year, simply again because Oak Savannah is under construction this summer. And it's too confusing for people that want to go out and use the park to find that it's closed, and then the date kept getting pushed back, at least for Bridgeview last summer because of construction issues. So we just said, no, we'd rather use a city park if one's going to be under construction. So we'll be using the city park down the road.
Nice. I like how you've mixed the outdoors and reading together. It's kind of nice.
Yep, and people don't necessarily realize that when we say literacy, everybody automatically assumes reading and reading a book. But there's also physical literacy. So the story stroll incorporates that physical literacy of how your body moves and what you do with it.
That is nice. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else for guest and open forum? Seeing no one, we'll move into committee reports. Personnel Committee. I'm doing that. We discussed everything that's on our agenda this evening, the compensation package, which was, we discussed that, and then the realigns of the vacation, remember from numbers to letters, and that's also in our consent agenda. So that was it. Yeah. How about Public Works Committee? I will do that one as well. Again, on this evening's consent agenda is the wastewater treatment facilities pH equipment replacement. That was a CIP equipment purchase, so that is just on the consent agenda. We did do some whole city leak detection, so if you did see some fire hydrants with snow pushed away, it's just because that was our wastewater treatment facility area who did a contract with another company to come in to do leak detection with all of our fire hydrants. So that's what you saw at that time. What? We did find a leak. Oh, you did? Do you, because Tony's, see, we can hear the man behind the curtain. I got you, boo. I got you.
We did find the leak.
Do you want to tell them how much water we were missing?
A lot.
A lot,
Yeah,
We have sandy soil, can I put it that way?
yes.
Yeah, we were missing a lot, so.
Sandy soil, and so you found it over by the apartments, and it's been
which
fixed?
Nope,
apartment?
it'll be fixed, they'll dig it up tomorrow and hopefully have it fixed tomorrow.
Okay,
I don't know what the name of the apartment, right in the end of Edgewood as you're going out towards 10, on the left-hand side.
The white ones?
Yeah, Prairie Village, thank you. Yep. So, yep.
all right, good. And then, what else? Oh, we also discussed that we are due to replace a snow blower in Public Works in 2023, and we have been advised it takes about 12 months to receive that piece of equipment. So we were being asked if we could get in line right now. And I know that we've set that precedent in years past with like a police department or like a truck, knowing that it would be out years. And we did give the okay for Chris to go ahead and put us in line for that, even though our purchase will be in 2023. If we could get in line, we should do it.
Snow plow or snow blower?
It's a blower, it's a big blower unit.
It's not your little walk behind
That
it.
is
That's what I was thinking, I was
That
like,
one.
oh,
That is a,
It's a much,
Home Depot.
yeah, just a,
it's also a CIP unit.
yeah. And that was it. We have a couple other things that we've been working on, but they're not ready for council discussion yet, but those will be coming. How's that? All right, how about EDA?
EDA, we met just last night. We got a home update, which, I'll just share a few of the details on that. The new listings, down 4% here. Obviously, interest rates and a couple other things playing playing a role in that. If we're doing counts, there are 8 homes for sale in the 55308 zip code right now, and all 8 are new construction. So there are no homes for sale right now in 55308 that are not new construction. So, something to think about that. Also, when we had, did a little bit of adjustment for, the time on the market for the homes, if you take out the, kind of the oddballs, 6.2 days on the market. So there is no inventory as can be inspected, and, so when we've, other projects that, we've talked about as a council, that's, good news for those type of projects to come forward and, get their inventory to market as quick as possible. So, that was, probably the biggest takeaway out of that. We had a bunch of other updates, quite a few of them are on the, exec session for tonight, so can leave it at that.
All right, any other committees? None, we'll move to board, committee, and consultant reports. Job classification and compensation study, acceptance and implementation with Ms. Bleasy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I am very excited to be bringing this to you tonight. Thank you for your support of the study, and by extension of that, showing that you value your staff and everything. The study has been a group effort on behalf of leadership, staff, so big thank you to everybody who provided feedback and input over the last 10 months of this. The city did contract with Gallagher Benefit Services to complete the study, and they presented the findings to council at the last executive session on March 1st. Objectives of the study included reviewing the current classifications, grade methodology, pay plan, documents, and strategies. Second was conducting a comprehensive survey of the external labor markets. And the third was analyzing and evaluating all the data in an objective manner and making recommendations for a compensation system designed to ensure both internal equity and external competitiveness. So council did receive in their packet the summary report, the recommended job classification, and the salary structure, along with updated job descriptions. Tonight, we will move from the modified Princeton evaluation system to the decision band method evaluation system. Staff proposes implementation to begin on April 2nd, which is the beginning of the first full pay period in the second quarter of 2022. Implementation steps include step 1, looking at the placing all employees at minimum or closest step to current wage on the new scale. Step 2 for bands B through E, looking at the market penetration on current structure to place employees on the new salary structure up to step 5, and then include one additional step for employees who have more than 5 years of service in their current position. F step 1 places them at a higher step. Step 1 would prevail over step 2. Step 3, the final step, would be looking at bands B through E to ensure a minimum 3% increase for all employees. If council moves to implement tonight, next steps include presentation to staff on March 31st, individualized notifications to each employee the week of April 4th. Again, payroll will take effect on the payroll check of April 21st, and then the classification appeal process would begin in July. Personnel Committee did review and recommended approval. Cost to implement the study in 2022, we're looking at approximately $160,000. It's very difficult to get an exact number with the people who come and go, especially our part-time seasonal employees. $50,000 was budgeted from the general fund for implementation this year. The remaining $110,000 is proposed to come through available fund balance net position reserves. So tonight I would ask for 2 motions from council. The first is to accept the summary report, job classification structure, salary structure, and job descriptions. The second is to adopt resolution 2217, which is the implementation of the classification study. So with that, I'll take any questions, otherwise motions.
With these salaries, these dollar amounts, so you you can't, nobody can make more than what the maximum is on this?
So we did check in with Gallagher on that question. If there's a position that, say, is way above what the salary structure is, they do have what they call market premium rates that can be implemented for a period of time. Say the salary decreases over time,
Well, I'm
it's
thinking
something
going
that you
up.
can roll back if you want to, or if, you know, they come in line with your salary structure as you move that salary structure over the years, then at the point where they start aligning, then you can roll back that market
Yeah, what
premium.
I'm getting at is, we want to get somebody, or even keep somebody. Can they be offered more than the maximum that's on this?
Not unless we do that market premium rate. So the salary structure is where it's at.
What's involved in that?
I would be working with Gallagher, but it would be coming up with a rate that would be appropriate for those particular positions that would be
How long does this
identified. It shouldn't take more than a couple of weeks, I wouldn't think, to work with Gallagher on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause I do have some concerns on some of the salaries. I'm questioning if we have them enough. Not that we need it right now, but we
Yep.
could.
Yep, for sure. And that option is definitely available to us.
Okay. Then I'm good with it.
Julie, thank you to your staff and everyone else. This has been probably a year, if not a little bit more, of detailed working, finding our consultant to use, and then working with Gallagher, and then getting the results. And then I know that just the results alone, we've spent many meetings. I know Budget and Finance has personnel sent it to, you know, we've done a lot of review on this. This is not just something that was, you know, construed in the back room. This was
Yes.
very well planned out, very methodically completed, so thank you to the staff that partaked.
There were a lot of people who participated, a lot of them out here in your audience tonight,
Yeah.
so.
I have one other question too. Is this, union contracts affected by this?
Union contracts are negotiated, so those would be negotiated.
They're not,
At the
they have
time.
anything to do with this then?
They are placed on the, what do I want to call it? They are placed on the classification, so that for pay equity, when we report to the state, we're reporting them to make sure we're
Still
meeting
negotiated
those
separately.
needs. Yep,
Okay.
correct.
I'll make a motion to accept the summary report, job classification structure, salary structure, and revised job descriptions.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2217, adopting the job classification and compensation study and giving staff authority to implement.
I'll second that.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Aye. Opposed, carried.
Thank you again.
Pebble Creek's lower level clubhouse remodel. Mr. Kua.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight, we have a 2022 CIP project that was planned under the working title of Pebble Creek Lower Level Clubhouse Remodel. So as we've discussed with Golf Committee and at executive session, this is a project to level up the appearance and take care of some improvements to the lower level space at the Pebble Creek Clubhouse. The four main parts I'll run through quickly and some of the rationale. So the first improvement or remodel we're looking to take on is regarding the men's locker room. Shared shower facilities in general are just not something that people are utilizing anymore. And so we've got a space in the men's locker room as well as the women's locker room that we'd like to address by reconfiguring these shower areas into something that is more useful for our operations and has value to our guests that come to our facility. So starting with the men's locker room, what we'd look to do is to frame in the existing shower doors. There are some pictures that have been provided to councils of the areas that we'll discuss, so that we would convert that shower space into storage. We would cap off all the drains and waters to eliminate any future leaks from that area and provide our staff more areas to stage less frequently accessed materials. And then the second area that we'd address would be the hallway area of the lower level. The warped and stained ceiling tiles that are probably original to the facility are just very much in need of an upgrade. As you've known over the last few years, we've kind of been taking our clubhouse off in pieces and making improvements and beautification of the different spaces. And it's been really well received by our guests, and our staff believes it has led to increased business. So much the same we're looking to take on with the lower level. Included in that hallway would also be fresh paint over the block walls throughout the hallway. The next area would be the ladies' locker room, and this is an area that we're pretty excited about because we feel it does have a return on investment. So if you go into the women's locker room, back around the corner, there's showers that have block dividers. We would look to demo that existing block and then convert that area into soft seating and vanities for bridal parties. When we talk about the rationale of this change, as we continue to book weddings and show our facility, that really has become something that bridal parties are really seeking out, is a place for them to do hair or makeup, maybe just relax outside of the public eye. And as far as our space and configuration in the clubhouse, this is a good option for them. We would also cap off all the drains and water in that shower area, carpet, drywall, and finish over the tiled areas. And then add soft seating. So that is something that I know, even just floating it with some of our staff and people that are involved in wedding planning would be a nice move for our particular facility. The last part of this remodel is the old snack shack area. One of the kind of moving pieces of this, by creating the storage in the men's locker room, we would free up space in our existing storage area in the snack shack. And what we would do with that is convert that into club storage. We've really seen a need for that. A lot of other facilities have the ability for us to store clubs. And then especially during the winter months, with the simulator business really taking off, our guests have expressed an interest to keep their clubs on property so they don't have to lug them from their truck up to the clubhouse and vice versa. So we would convert that into club storage, equipped with a code lock and a camera for security. We'd replace the warped and dated ceiling tiles in the snack shack, fresh paint throughout, and then add soft seating and potentially a table so that when we do get other businesses that are looking to our facilities for private meetings, say they're interviewing and they're just looking for a place off-site from there, we could provide that, as well as staff having private meetings with employees or onboarding. It'd be a nice space that we could utilize for that. So again, this has been discussed with committee and executive session. The golf committee has lent its support to this project. We had budgeted $25,000 for this capital improvement in '22, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Looking for a motion and a second to authorize staff to general contract the lower level clubhouse remodel with the total spend not to exceed the $25,000. With that, I'd turn it over to you to answer any questions.
No questions? Okay.
I'll make a motion to authorize staff to general contract the lower level clubhouse remodel with a total spend not to exceed $25,000.
I'll second that.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Consent agenda.
Right.
Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, on the consent agenda, we have the Safe Assure contract renewal. And Safe Assure provides the city safety training, programming, and online MSDS services. The contract amount, $7,058.53. They've been doing a great job, and I've got some really good reviews from staff, so great asset to the organization. Also, new liquor license, Cherokee Liquors, buying the previous establishment. A new tobacco license for Bill Supret and Bill's Family Foods. Personal policy update on vacation leave, and that was mentioned by the mayor that the personnel committee reviewed that, and that doesn't really change anything. It's more housekeeping matter, shifting from grades to bands as far as how it's calculated. Chris mentioned also domestic wastewater treatment, train in line, DO and pH equipment replacement. Sounds very technical, but it's very important and it helps manage our wastewater flow to make sure that we understand what's in the system so we can track it down if there's any problems. Quoted cost was $32,815, not to exceed CIP budget of $35,200. And then last but not least, we have a Pebble Creek asset disposal. We need to declare items that are surplus in order for them to be sold or disposed of. And there's a listing there. I'll spare citing them all, but it's used equipment. 1997 Toro Groundsmaster, 2002 Toro Multi-Pro Sprayer, 2002 John Deere 250 diesel triplex mower, 2005 John Deere 2500 diesel triplex mower, and a 2007 Toro Z-Master 60 zero-turn mower. And I might put a bid in on that. That sounds like a fun piece of equipment to have if it works. But anyway, it's being disposed of. So with that rounds out the consent agenda.
I think it would get your lawn done quite quickly.
Very quick, yep.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll second it.
Motion from Rick, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Payment of the bills.
I move we pay the bills.
I'll second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Opposed, carried. Does council have anything else for the betterment of Becker? I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Robin, second from Mike. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 5:43 p.m.
You gotta do something
Couldn't see
about
that, huh?
I know, I couldn't see